One day, nuclear war will happen, and the one way to prepare for those harsh realities of that life would be to play Life as Bunker. This resource management simulation game puts you as the overseer of people's lives, without the whole Fallout social experiment thing. It sells for $15.99 and released on February 25th, 2016, and yes, I'm really behind on this one. But before I begin this first impressions, this key was obtained from the developer for the purposes of review. That won't change my opinion in the end, but you should know that because of FTC guidelines, as well as the whole morals thing, you know? So the basic concept of the game: build up a new home within the deep caverns using the resources around, while avoiding the deadly mole men and various landslides, diseases, and random events the game throws at you. You'll have to provide for your residents in several ways: food to keep them fed, beds so that they can sleep, and activities so they don't go crazy and start a murderous rampage. You'll have to monitor everything from the power consumption of your devices to even how much garbage that you've got lying around. On the surface, the game's got several things going for it. You've got 6 jobs that you'll have to give your bunker mates, which range from digging out the dirt for your next set of rooms to farming up the next set of food that you'll need. The game takes the elements of dungeon keepers digging out and making up areas, but takes Fallout Shelter's management of tasks and residents. It's a little bit of an oddball, but makes it stand out for a unique combination of things. And unlike other games, you can't specialize in certain buildings or worker types. Everyone is important to make this bunker run, from the janitor to the scientist. As to the buildables, you've got an okay amount of equipment and options to choose from, but you will run out of new options sooner rather than later. At that point, you'll just need to add more of everything that you've got. And needless to say, that was disappointing. But trust me when I say this, it may have added too much complication in that case, as you'll find out in the later parts of this video. Each item will cost resources which you can mine from the environment, and you'll need to set up water and electrical systems to power certain equipment, such as shower stalls and refrigerators. You'll have to keep in mind your current power and water thresholds, and may even need to make redundant systems to make sure you have abilities in case some wire breaks or a machine breaks down. And from a management standpoint, you'll at first find something interesting. There's a lot of small mechanics and elements to manage here that go into the overall well-being of your bunker, and one wrong move could end up being disastrous. The game is the slow burn type of death, where you aren't going to get overrun by a force of mole men or anything. The death of your bunker will be gradual, as you watch the life force of your last worker fade into the night, with you unable to recover from a bad mistake you made early on. Planning is a huge part of the game, as it's very easy to run out of space and be backed into a corner, unable to see what you can do to fix the current crisis. The game is cutthroat, and to a certain extent I like that. It's a realistic simulation if the world were to end, as things aren't going to be puppy dogs and rainbows. Shit's going to go down, and it's not going to be nice about it. But it's that same brutalness that will cause people to turn away from Life as Bunker. This has to do with the implementation of several of the game's key features, and how the game doesn't really tell you much once you get going. Sure, the game walks you through a tutorial and tells you some basic things of what to do, but it only teaches you the concepts. How you use the concepts is a completely different story, and you'll undergo a harsh learning curve before getting in deep with this game. The game really teaches through experience, and so your first several runs, don't expect much, because the game has a gotcha around every corner. For example, your residents within your bunker will age, starting from an embryo within a genetic pod to the ripe old age of death. In the childhood or elderly phases of their life, those members are only a drain. They can't work for you and will take resources from you while doing it. And here's the thing, this aging process starts during the tutorial, and the game here shows its ruthlessness. I found myself in an unwinnable situation very shortly after the tutorial, as the majority of my workforce could not work anymore due to age. And while it had taught me that I could make kids, what I didn't realize at the time was how undiverse my work staff was in the age category. This forced me to start the game again, and then abandon the tutorial after 2 more attempts, thinking I could do better than what the tutorial wanted me to do. And that's partly what I'm talking about. The game expects you to own everything, and if you make a mistake, well, tough shit. That's on you. You can easily run out of resources in the game, to the point where you may not be able to break down your already built items to actually move forward to get more resources. Didn't have enough engineers to really repair anything, and now everything's breaking at once? Sorry, that's your problem. I get tough love, but man, this game is almost abusive the way it goes about it. There's so much to manage that can be a really hard task to undertake. You'll have things sneak up on you very quickly and not realize it, and now this run is pretty much over. And part of my issues with that comes from the hurdles of the tool set that the game has you use. Why couldn't the water allotment be available as a small element on the main screen? You got pretty much everything else there. Why do I have to dig deep into the menus in order for me to actually take advantage of it? Why not warnings when my food supply is low or that I'm about to hit my oxygen limit? It feels like the developers knew the basic concepts and reactions they were going for, but didn't think about the actual players and how they'd use the controls in question. And one of the biggest problems is the AI. See, unlike other games, you really don't control characters in this game. Now sure, you can tell them to go to the bathroom, for example, but if I wanted to tell a worker to work on a specific part, I can't. Some of it goes off a priority system, but in some cases, you can't even adjust that priority. They just choose exactly what they want to do in terms of building, repairing, etc. And that's a major blow to this game. You can't really pre-plan in that case, as yeah, I can get all the rooms dug out in terms of queuing up actions. But if I wanted them to focus on one section in particular, I can't, without removing those other queued actions. This lack of control in a game that's so hinging on strict management of resources and making sure you've got safeguards for what could happen, that's a cardinal sin. It makes a game that could be great in terms of simulation management and user control out of your hands at times, and that is the worst thing you can do in a God Overseer game. Want another example? Sure. In Life is Bunker, scientists work either as researchers or as doctors. Now, if there's an epidemic overrunning the bunker, I need to deal with it. But if I only happen to have one scientist, he chooses where he wants to work. Doesn't really seem to matter if the entire bunker is catching every disease known to man. The AI has made a choice of researching at that point, for science, and you can do nothing about it. See what I mean about frustrating here? Now, I think the choice is the first building that you made, so in this example, I built the science lab first. And guess what? He chose that one instead of the whole infirmary, the infirmary I needed him to be at. And the AI is just dumb in general. It forces you to babysit them a lot. I can't count the number of times that a worker got stuck in between a newly constructed element and a wall so that they couldn't do anything. Shouldn't the AI make the choice of working on the device with the most space to their back? I mean, I would expect that, but what do I know? And it's hard to see the effect of this until later on, where their absence of what they're working on starts to pile up. The implementation and controls need some work as well. Fast forwarding is useful in the game, especially when you're first expanding, but you can only pause with the keyboard. There's no key to actually activate the fast forward. You have to do it with the mouse. I feel like some shortcuts to certain submenus would have made things a lot easier, and because of that, it all feels clunky. It feels rigid and unyielding. You have to play this one way, and that's it. Sure, you've got bindable keys, but I needed more than what it gave me. And finally, it sort of stumbles at the purpose of the game. You basically win when you survive X amount of cycles, but it doesn't actually tell you that at the start. And the storytelling elements are non-existent here, which is a shame as you could really go wild with the blank canvas that the game made. But any immersion, any connection that you've got to your bunker, it's never really built up, and in a God-type game, that's another cardinal sin. When things go wrong, I want to feel when it goes wrong. Now granted, you've given the option to name your workers, and that's a good start, but play into the actual interactions, what exactly happens within the bunker, and work off that. You didn't do that here, and unfortunately, the execution suffers because of it. There's a good simulation game trying to break out from Life is Bunker, and I do think the game is on the edge in terms of good and bad. For those who are willing to learn via playing, and are willing to suffer through the game's clunky menus and lack of control, you can try to make your utopia here, as the core concepts do work. It's just being battled at every point with the implementation that was chosen here, and it made a game that was frustrating in the wrong ways. For me, it's a sale target right now. It's still got some fun parts, but not at the price it's at. But if some of the implementation portions are fixed, I can see a game that can really shine. But for now, it's just a game that makes you feel trapped. Trapped like a rat. Thanks for watching. Like the video, share it with a friend, and subscribe if you want more content like this. In the description below, you'll find the Steam review accompanying this vid, along with social media that you can follow me on, Twitter, Google+, and Facebook groups. And if you want to support the channel, click that Patreon on the left of the screen. And remember, keep on gaming.